joined.
Yep, and we're recording.
All right, perfect. So I've got 7:02, and I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks for coming, everybody. Our last, I hope, facilities and security meeting before the end of this session. So, and my last facilities and security meeting, and possibly Bob's.
Yep. I think, buddy. Yeah, I think so.
Hey, you know,
It's
could
the
be
end of an
mine
era.
too. I mean,
Could be.
throw me into the mix. My contract is up.
You're irreplaceable, Dan.
Yeah, that's what they all
Just for the
say.
singing.
What's
Just for the
that?
singing. We'll bring you back for singing.
Please.
Guest appearance, huh?
Guest appearance. Not.
So, I mean, I guess before we really get onto the bulk of the agenda, I want to thank everyone for, how this group has come together. Linda and I have been doing this for a little while now, and this is definitely the best the group has been. There's points where it was 3 people, and we usually got 2 of us at a meeting. So you're going to have 4 people in the group and get all 4 people at nearly every meeting has been great. It's definitely good to get everybody's viewpoints and backgrounds involved, and we all come from either different towns or different areas or different backgrounds, so it's great to have everybody involved, and it's been fantastic, and I appreciate everybody's involvement. So other than that, this is the highlight of my school committee times. These meetings are much better than the big meetings, because I think we seem to get along pretty well, move forward pretty well, and we have fun, but we tackle all the tasks at hand. So thanks for that. All right. So
if I may, just very quickly, I also just want to tip my virtual cap to you as well. I appreciate the privilege of working with you on this committee, and to Krista, Linda, and Mike as well. It's been a fun committee. We get to let our hair down a little bit, pun intended. Mine's actually sticking up, but again, pun intended. Like I said, maybe I'll be a sit-down comedian in my next life. I don't know. But at the same time, I think that we've tackled a lot of important stuff this year, and at the end of the day, through your stewardship, if you will, it's been for the kids. Everything that we ultimately do here is for the kids, the classroom. People may say HVAC, yeah, but absolutely positively. And so I want to thank you, and I want to wish you the very best, and maybe when you come back, I'll come back, and we can do a duet together. What do you think? You know what? We should charge admission for that sucker, boy.
I think people will pay us to stop if I start singing. So, yeah, that's where that stands. No, thanks, Dan. I agree. So yeah, it's been good, and hopefully through tonight, we can kind of lay forward what the next iteration of this subcommittee can do. There's a lot of important stuff that we've done this year, and there's a lot of important stuff that got put on the back burner this year that this subcommittee will need to tackle as we move forward. So yeah. All right.
And one more thing, I'm sorry, but I would be remiss. I would be remiss, seriously, if I didn't tip my virtual cap as well to Bob and the work that he has done on this committee. And I would be remiss if I didn't if I didn't say publicly, because this is being recorded, that Bob grabbed the bull by the horns last July or August, whenever it was, and just made things happen. That there are 1,000 stories behind those few words. We're not going to get into them now. You can read, but you can read the book though, and I'm happy to sign the book. You guys will get free copies. You know, Bob took charge of all that, and there were that's not the budget book, Mike. And there were challenges, and don't forget too that at the same time also juggling his hat as the assistant superintendent, deputy superintendent, and with the curriculum PD and all that goes with that job. It has been, if I may, a Herculean task, one that he performed Hemingway-esque. Now you say to yourself, what is Hemingway-esque? Hemingway-esque is grace under pressure. Unlike me, I ain't graceful.
I appreciate that.
So,
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, just I'm sure Linda will agree too, because just one example was when we went on those school tours in the fall, and you know, Bob took us around. He took me to 2 different schools. And every single room we walked into, we knew what the situation was, not just, you know, the general idea of the building. It was like that room, this room, that room, this is what's going there. We moved, I mean, well above and beyond. So yeah, thank you, Bob. Absolutely.
I definitely agree there. That was very impressive. Just to not quite as verbose at the moment, but as I usually am. But yeah, no, that was incredibly eye-opening to see the amount of detail known and just known about the whole district, and that kind of knowledge comes only with a lot of dedication, and so that showed through in this subcommittee and hopefully beyond too. It was very good to see, and thank you to Adam too for the pre-COVID version of the subcommittee, and now soon post-COVID, and don't know, it's an end of an era.
And I think we all kind of hope at least this era is ending. Not necessarily me, just this whole time. So, all right.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, no problem. It was fun. I mean, it was work, but it was fun, and it's been educational. You know, just as someone with a non-education background, it's been very interesting, eye-opening to do this. So, and I'm sure, as everybody agrees, frustrating at times, but you know, it's worth it because you know, it's what we do at the end of the day that counts, and who we're doing it for. So. All right, I'm done fishing for compliments.
how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Thanks. I feel better. I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. I like it.
And now the end is near, and he did it his way.
Before he keeps singing, thanks, Krista. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of April 6th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? Any issues? Nope. All right, I'll start at the top. Mike?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the minutes pass. All right. Before we move on to the next thing, I do want to ask Dan, item number 7 here is the long-term capital plan. How long do you think that'll take to go over any changes or anything?
Half an hour max, and the reason for that is that a member of Pantos had sent Bob and I an email a couple of weeks after our last meeting, and so I think that we've answered his questions. But again, you know, I think at our last meeting we brought it down to 5,000 feet, And I'd like to bring it up to 50,000 feet. Just highlight, at the high end, give you a quick overview on where things are for 21, and then Bob and I met today, and it would be our request that this group, though it's not on the agenda, to make a recommendation to bring it forward to the full committee at probably the May 5th meeting, if we can, and then move it forward. Any projects that may be in there for 22, with the exception of one, Dawson, obviously would put it off until the fall town meetings at the earliest. But Dawson, and I think that we'd all agree, given our last discussion, is tops on the list in terms of getting tackled. July 1st,
Okay.
for sure.
So unless anybody objects, I'd like to take the long-term capital plan out of order and move it to the next item, just so that we ensure we get to it, so that we can make some sort of recommendation if that's what we want to do, so that it can come forward at the next meeting on May 5th, because there's a chance there may be no meetings or not effective meetings between May 5th and June 21st, which is a very long time, just due to the way town elections are falling this year. Does anybody object to that? All right. So can we jump right into the capital plan? I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but at least bring us to the point where highlight any changes since last time and any areas you think that I guess focus, and then we can open it up to questions.
Bob, do you want to put it up there, or do people have it?
I've got it, and I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, let me open it twice.
Alrighty, so very quickly, in FY21, one of the numbers that was consistent throughout was the, and I'm looking at it here, at least on my computer, the security figure for approximately $50,000. And one thing that will drive 21 projects is really where we land at the end of FY21. And administration is in agreement that we really need to tackle the work next door at ECC. This is probably going to be one of those rare years that we're going to have some cash at the end of the year. This Univent project is something that would have to be fairly immediate. The reason for that is the whole procurement process is at least a month out. By the time we post in goods and services and go through all the proper channels, then we have the bid, and we'll probably need to also bring on an engineer, and that engineer would be part of that 360. I don't think that this is something that we want to tackle independent of that professional guidance. So that's certainly a possibility, and clearly it would be a project that would begin probably with the engineering the latter part of this fiscal year, and then bring it to closure during the summer months. The funding source would be solely leftover money from FY21 that we would carry forward into 22, and we would identify that as a carry forward into 22. That's really the bigger project. And then the security, again, the 50,000, we're using that number as a placeholder. We do have some quotes here from some other projects that the district has done recently, and the numbers vary between 20,000 and almost 67,000. So that's a placeholder, and again, the numbers are driven by the number of cameras that may be added, the servers that may be added. Is it a server? Is it a servers? Plural. And also the number of fobs that may be added to doors. So it's like buying a car, if you will. The more bells and whistles that you add to the vehicle, the greater the cost. And again, I'm just giving you a quick 50,000 foot overview. So that's pretty much a quick overview of 21. 22, I think they were all in agreement that the project that's first and foremost is the work over at Dawson and the bathrooms over there, and that's just something that's got to happen. And we're looking at 200K. This is a discussion with the town of Holden, and I just want you to keep that thought for a minute, because when I get into later on, the discussion about the budget, Bob's got a couple grants to talk about, and I've got one grant I want to talk to you about as well that I wrote. It could be tied into that, so there may be the ability to make that happen sooner than later. And then, if I may, to member Pantos's email that he sent us after, if I may, Mike, just for a couple of minutes to speak to, some of the concerns that you had. And again, we talked about this at our last meeting. Certainly, the sprinkler system at Paxton is an issue up there. Again, that building, that's a problem. That is a problem in that building, and again, can't be addressed for the start of 22. Where are we? Right. I'm sorry, but my eyes are not good here. Should probably put there we go. Make it bigger. It's always a good thing. In any event, that's a pretty significant figure, the 1.5. That's not going to happen. We've got it a couple years out, but that that is a safety issue, at least of which, and we're going to need to move that up, and that's a discussion that when Dr. McCall resumes his meetings with the town managers, that we're going to need to put on the forefront of the agenda when we speak to the town of Paxton regarding that. Something that member Pantos had also suggested, and I've done this before. I've worked with this before. It's an electronic. This is not on the capital plan, but it's something that he brought to our attention. It's an electronic work order system for operations and maintenance. And when I received the email, I said to Mike, "School dude," and so that's what it's called. And I've worked with it, and actually, School dude, and there is a cost associated with it. There's no question about that. And I don't have the number, and it varies, as to how they calculate the cost. But when I used School dude in a previous district, it was actually very helpful. Because, and that was, a couple of years ago, but, we were able to track ongoing projects all the time and see where the guys were at and where they weren't at. It was kind of a check and balance too of my facility guy at that time to see, why isn't this done? It's been 6 months. What do you need, or what's slowing you down? So that's something that we can certainly look at. And I think, and Adam, you may have some history here. I think the district, I got you, Mike. I think that the district maybe years ago looked at School dude or something like that. I'm not so sure it lasted long, but it is user friendly. It does have benefits. I just got to get people to buy into the use of that. That's for sure. Otherwise, I think that we pretty much, for the most part, and Linda, we've got your request from the last meeting about the sidewalks out in Sterling. So those are in there as well. As I'm sure you all know, these numbers are driven by data that we have now. I mean, they could change 6 months to a year from now. I think that we'd have to really look at the numbers when those projects come up. Just in terms of labor costs, in terms of fuel costs, so many factors come into these numbers here. So 30 seconds, Mike. You can time me, Krista. And we would be asking, administration would be asking that if this group doesn't have any other request of changes, that you take a vote to recommend it to bring forward to the full committee, apparently at this point on May 5th, and that's like our last bite at the apple, so to speak. Bob, did I miss anything?
Lindo, you had asked us to look at the yearly expenditures and try to balance that. We did some of that work as well, and you can see the totals at the bottom are slightly different from last time. It's a little more balanced. Mike, you had asked us if we could bring forward to a closer year the sprinkler systems. We bumped those both up a year, and I moved some other things around to try to balance those. One of the challenges I think we're bumping into is those are some pretty hefty dollar amounts. Anytime you get over $1 million for a town to come up with, so they might need to come out and look at it and get on board and sell it to their clientele. So they might need a year or two to make that happen. So I couldn't really, I think, in good faith, move it up to like next year or the year after. So we're still open to feedback from you guys. Mike, what do you want to say?
I just wanted to speak to my recommendations. First and foremost, being the sprinkler system is a huge health and safety concern. I really think that needs to be within the next 5 years. I don't know if there's any appropriate action we could take as a subcommittee to make a recommendation specifically to the town to move it up. I mean, I understand we don't have the final say, but I'd like to at least point it out if possible. The other item was thinking, what was the other item we had on there? Dan, you spoke about it.
All right, so we got the Paxton sprinkler system, we've got the Paxton HVAC, the Dawson bathrooms, which we all agree is numero uno come July, and then the parking lot issues over at Naquag, Mike.
Yeah, I'll definitely get in touch with Rutland because I think the parking lot needs to be taken care of as soon as possible.
And Mike, you had some questions about the 50K, you know, what was behind that number. And again, I've got some quotes
Bob and I
here.
talked about it. It needs to be the details have to be come in. It's a placeholder. Bob and I talked.
Yep, and again, like buying a car, you know, all the bells and whistles, the cost is going to go up. And again, these quotes here from projects, one is 66,320, another one is 67,331, and a third one was, and again, different projects, 18,202. So the numbers vary. So 50,000, I guess, is a fair placeholder.
Okay. What was the other item that you had mentioned about moving up? I'm drawing a blank for some reason. From my email.
We moved up the sprinklers. Let me jump back in there for just a second.
Sprinklers, the HVAC system over at Paxton, the parking lot issues, and the security, Mike.
Okay.
And from Linda's input, we added in an item which was the Choxit sidewalks. And Mike, you had also mentioned the fact about the sidewalks and the paving the parking lot at all three schools in Holden, and we made sure those were in there, and they're happening about the same time as well.
I'm just. Okay, thank you. So, if I may, is this an updated document where changes have been made which is what we would be then voting on, right?
Yeah, this is current. Dan and I have been, that's why we chose to work in Google Docs so that you guys can see the changes in there. You can leave comments to anything or feedback. So it's something that is more readily, it lends itself to changes and being current. So whatever you see when you click on that file is current, even though it's the same link to it.
Okay, thank you.
Did anybody else have questions?
Just if if you don't mind reminding me, when was the Paxton sprinkler originally in this?
They
In
were all
Paxton?
for 29, and I think I moved it to 28. We're certainly open to trying to move it around and trying to keep Linda with and that was a good pickup on your end. The bottom line, what's the total ask each year for all these district buildings? It certainly is going to have a big impact because both of those are over $1 million. So whatever year we move those to, it certainly will have a big impact to the total ask we have for all schools across the district. So if we don't mind doing that, I could certainly move it up. There will be some legwork that'll be behind that to get anything like that to pass. We got to really work with the towns of Paxton and Princeton to get them to understand the importance of that.
Yeah, I guess I would just wonder, looking at what what the system is
Mhm.
and the time that we're looking at, and is there any opportunity for grants to cover this type of repair? Is it really ventilation overall?
Nope. See, none of this money that's out there now I could put towards this. I couldn't. This has nothing to do with indoor air quality. It has nothing to do with COVID related safety. It really doesn't. This is
Even if there's a fire raging, that doesn't have to.
well, what they're trying to draw the
I,
line.
I, I understand.
Yeah, hey, communities, you have a responsibility too. And yes, we're giving you money about COVID, but you can't spend it on anything here. It has to be, within something related to COVID. This is outside of that realm.
Yep. Yep. Thank you.
I think Mike's got a question, Adam.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'd really like to see, even if it's just by 1 year, moving up the electrical work at Naquag. I know that I preferably to have that one expense all by itself in a year because it's such a large expense. But 24 seems a little bit too far off. even 23 would be better. Yeah, as well as the resurfacing, if at all possible.
So I can move that from 24 to 23. 23 will be a big total cost at the bottom.
Well, we could move could we move some of the smaller costs from 23 to 22 or to 24 it to somewhat help lighten that blow.
I mean, it's really just the gym floor, unless you want to move the parking lot to after the electrical panel, right?
They're of equal importance to me.
Yeah. And I think it'd be a tough sell to ask Rutland to do all of those in 1 year.
Exactly.
So I think what we need to do is basically look at those two, and I don't know that answer, but really look at, is the parking lot or the electrical panel more important, and that's the one you do first. Because this is a plan for Rutland. It doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Could that be a decision that's left up to the town as to which they would want to do first?
Well, it's an old cliche, money's drive decisions. I think my recommendation is, maybe we keep it where it is. None of this has been shared with any of the town managers. Again, we've had a bit of a moratorium on those meetings, just given COVID. But hopefully, as we return to some sense of normalcy, however we define that, we'll begin those discussions. I'll recommend to Darrell that. That we discussed this at one of our first meetings. Hopefully, it's in September thereabouts.
All right.
Give the towns a heads up and get their reaction. I mean, as you know, Mike, there's some challenges out in Rutland just with the budget itself.
Exactly.
I'd hate to throw this out there and not be sensitive to the challenges that all the communities have.
Great. So I think we can get by keeping it where it is. I just wanted to offer that input.
Got it.
Thank
Got
you.
it.
Can I ask probably a really silly question?
No silly question.
Any kind of question.
No
Oh
silly
no, I'm
questions there.
sure that it's a little bit weird.
No.
So I mean, so how I do things when I'm like, oh well, I don't have enough to do the money to do like the whole thing, so I do part, and then part later, and then another part, and then I noticed that that's kind of how the replace the 9 rooftop units was done in pieces, right? And I'm wondering if there's any way, because you know, safety is such a thing, and I don't mean to like harp on it again, but I wonder if there's any way to move up some of those plans that seem like real safety issues, just like do, you know, this piece or do part of it here and then part of it here and kind of chunk it up. Is there a way to do that? Like maybe not the roof, but maybe like half the sprinklers one year and then half another.
You know, I think Linda, Krista, I'm sorry, I apologize. I think it really depends upon the project, and there are some projects where it's kind of all or nothing, and just got to get it done. And like with the roof, and the other thing too is that when we get to the roof, and I'm sure this group knows it, but MSBA has. And it would be through the towns, but they have programs where they're called accelerated building projects, things like roofs, and where they'll reimburse a town at X%. I've actually had it done in a couple of districts when I was out in Leominster and in Leicester. So the taxpayers aren't footing the entire bill. So, and we haven't even gotten into that. I mean, we're showing you a cumulative number, but you know, for something like that, if you factor in a potential approval from MSBA, you know, that could, you know, cut that cost up in a third or thereabouts. But then to your point, Krista, there may be some other projects like the security, for example. I mean, there's like 5. In FY21, there's like 5 or 6 buildings where we've got that 50,000 placeholder. You know, maybe we don't tackle all 5 or 6. Maybe we tackle just that 1 or 2 buildings where, you know, is a problem. There was a school, and again, I'm, you know, because of its security, I can't, you know, get into it, and you all know that. But there was a building within the district where they had nothing. And you know, we found the money. I can tell you later off camera, you know, where it was. But it's cases like that may drive that decision. Say, okay, we got these 6 needs here, but we got these 2 buildings right here, and this thing needs to happen like, you know, 2 years ago. And that's just the kind of a base explanation. There may be some other bigger projects, like as you noted at the high school, where we've strung it out over the course of several years because it just cost prohibitive. So I guess short question, long answer. So what else is new from me is that depending upon the project, it could be strung out. And then there are some projects like ECC where we got to really look at that long and hard. I'm sorry, Bob, I'm talking too much.
Krista, sometimes when you have a unit cost like the high school, it's a unit. You can come up and replace a single thing. It's easier to break it out over multiple years.
Right.
Other times when you're going to get into the guts of the building and you're starting to take down tiles, and do you have to worry about what's in those tiles or what's in this caulking. It's better to just get it all done in one fell swoop. But having said that, we're certainly always open to piecemealing it to get it done. Our end goal is we don't want to see it as a stop sign. We want to see it, okay, can't go that way. Let's try this way over here. And what Dan said is sometimes what happens if a town is going to enter into doing a project and they can get some money back from the state, yet they can still borrow at this, it increases their buying power. So maybe they're still going to put it on the warrant for $1 million, let's say, but they're going to get 500,000 back. That means they can put 2 million out there then if they're going to get half back. And suddenly you could get 2 or 3 projects done in one fell swoop in a town where they put it on the and they voted through that way. So sometimes it seems like you're not going to get these big things, and then suddenly one year happens and you get 3 of them done or something like that. So I think the important thing is to have a plan and have it be real, and keep pushing on the towns. Like, guys, we need to get this done. Let's talk about it. Let's have a meeting. It's those conversations. It starts to get things going. So we're always open to doing things in stages if it means we can ultimately get it done and get it fixed. But sometimes it makes more sense to do it in one big chunk.
In the past, has there been a lot of pushback on getting like the safety things done? Have the towns been like, oh, sorry, no, we just don't care enough to do that? It's probably not care, but like, we can't do that.
All the towns care. Sometimes,
yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
The price tag might be a little bit cost prohibitive. Sometimes they need to. It takes a little time for them to get it together on their end, like get the support, talk to the right people on the town side to get it on the right ballot, those types of things. Other times, if it's a marginal safety thing, it's like, yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry, guys, we'll get to that. It's not an immediate thing. So that's where these plans really come into play. It really helps to get everybody to understand what we're asking for, the year that we're thinking about having it done, and it focuses our conversations and doesn't let things slip off of the radar.
Okay. And then one more is, are any of these things that are being pushed off for another like 5 or 6 years here, are there any legal issues with not having those items currently functioning or at peak performance?
I got to tell you, Krista, you thought that it was a silly question. These are really good questions. These are spot on questions. That's just my 2 cents worth. Because I guess you got Bob and I stumped here for a second with that last one. No, seriously.
I'll say this, Krista, without answering that directly. I've worked in a central office for over 25 years in a variety of districts. I've never been in a district that had even one school that didn't have a sprinkler system.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. Ditto. And so to your very poignant question, Krista, that's a good question. Are we asking? Are we as a district, asking for trouble because we don't have that fire suppression system? It's a great question. You got me stumped.
Okay.
And that brings up Mike's point of, well, then let's move it up, guys. Come on.
Right. Yeah. so that's why, and I worry about that because, and that's why I brought up, is there a way that we can do partial so that we at least aren't running into any of those legalities?
But something,
we're trying. Look how hard we're trying. But
something, Krista, and again, sometimes when issues like legal issues come to the forefront, it's amazing how things happen quickly. And I'm not saying that has to happen, but just and maybe I didn't say it the right way, so someone can virtually kick me under the table. But sometimes, getting a citation, it's like getting an audit and getting a finding, and I fight with the auditors, and they still cite me for something, but that makes me better, or makes our internal controls better, or maybe forces the issue to the front of my agenda that maybe was, someplace back in my agenda. Does that make sense?
Right. Sometimes when you're juggling, you have to let a ball fall in order to get it done. Okay, good.
To use Mike's example, illegal procedure. Is that right? Illegal procedure, Mike?
Hurry, let's move it up.
Is that right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move it forward.
I
go.
think Linda was next, and then I think Mike had a question after that.
So I guess to that same point, better that it be a legal question than an actual health safety question that pushes us forward.
Yep.
But ideally, it would just be move forward without either thing driving it. So what I would wonder is two things. What is the safety backup plan for with not having sprinkler systems? Since there must be something, there must be something.
There's
No
fire
matter how
extinguishers in
spotty.
every classroom, Linda. There's fire extinguishers in every classroom. There's two means of exit from every classroom. It's practicing those drills, getting the kids out as soon as possible. I mean, that's
And then after
that's
hours.
cool even with sprinklers, but that's what's in place. I'd be fine if you guys wanted to suggest a year. Is it 24? Is it 25? Where would you like me to move those up to? So that's what I'm open to feedback
Well,
rather
so
than
that's
us
my
maybe.
so that's my next question is, does MSBA handle this kind of a repair, or is it only new buildings, roofs? I mean, at what point is it uninhabitable, if we want to take it that far? Or not, that's the wrong word, but I think you know what I mean. And how long is that process? Because they're open now for applications from districts, correct? Or letters of interest, not just for new schools. I thought for
Two different things. Dan,
Yes,
right. Yeah.
Yes,
So
two different
is there
things,
any
Linda.
move? Yeah.
So what's happening now? It's called an SOI, statement of interest. Actually, that window, typically a statement of interest is for a building project, and that gets a district into the queue for building a new early childhood center, for example. But secondly, and I think what we're talking about here is an accelerated building project, ABP. Seriously, ABP, and those types of projects are projects that are fairly immediate, projects that get done in the summertime. Again, I'll just talk to when I was in Leominster and we were putting a new roof on one of our buildings. The day those kids left the building on June 15th, the construction crew was there at 12:01 in the afternoon, and they were staging and everything. They had to get it done. They had to get it done by August 28th. Linda, I'm not aware, but I'm happy to check. Reach out to MSBA to see if any of their accelerated building projects. Again, I haven't been at their site for a couple of years. If the eligible projects, if you will, if they've expanded beyond. It typically used to be roofs and windows. But I'm happy to look into that, and I can report back via email to the crew in the next couple of days on that for sure. And the other thing too, and I do, and I'm kind of chomping at the bit here a little bit because of one thing that we're going to talk about under the grants, which I think can help move some of these things along quickly. So I'm going to keep you in suspense because I'm that kind of guy for a few more minutes, if you don't mind. But this is actually these are great questions. And the other thing, someone got to time me here, so so you guys can get out of here before midnight. I think this subcommittee does have power, for lack of a better term. It does have the ability to make recommendations to the larger committee. You folks have spent a great deal of time this year looking at so many challenges in the buildings, and I think the Criesta de Resistance, if I said that correctly, would be recommendations to the full committee that you as a subcommittee, and again, you don't have the final say, but you have value. You have value in importance in my humble mind, and I think that the full committee would certainly respect what you would have to offer, because clearly you folks have dissected in a good way so many issues, building issues this year, that it should be like a slam dunk and then bring it forward. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
All right. So I think, Mike, you're next.
So I'm going to try to elaborate on Dan's point and maybe put it in a nicer way. I do understand what Dan was saying, but I have to watch what I say as well. I think what we're looking at is when push comes to shove, things happen. When you're put in a corner, things suddenly start happening. When Desi says you have to do this by a certain date, things suddenly happen. And I think that might have been what Dan was trying to get at when it comes to the sprinkler system.
I was trying to be diplomatic, Mike. Trying to be.
Yeah, I know. I'd really like to move it. No question in my mind, I'd like to move it up to 2024 for the sprinkler system. I'll see if I'll look into the NFPA code or see if there's anything else we can reach out for. I don't think this is something where we're going to find a grant or find free money, but I'll see if I can find something. Is there any sort of insurance issues with this? Does this affect the insurance on the buildings in any way? Okay, thank you. I'd like to move on as well, please.
All right. Well, before we do that, I do have a couple of comments. Mike hit my big one. This plan is just that. It's a plan. It's what we put forward to the towns, and one of the actions of doing that is, if some of it's a little painful, then it shows that that item we feel is really important. And if there's something that like, oh yeah, we could easily do that, then that's something that's less important. We tried to fit it into your timeline, things like that. So I definitely agree that we should move both of those items up to FY24. Both of those years are light for both of those towns. It's not going to be easy to come up with that money for that town, but it needs to be on the near horizon, not the far horizon. And it needs to be addressed, and put it on the town to say no, we're okay with having our school building that way, and let them come out and publicly say that. We need to say like, no, we feel that the safety is that important. It's got to happen sooner.
Adam, I've moved both of those up for you guys, so they're on the right years now. If you refresh the doc, it should list them in the right spot.
Thank you, Bob.
Sure.
And then my only other comment on the entire document. So I guess all the $50,000 security systems, that is money that the district is paying, right? Like that's not money that each individual town's paying. It's coming through the district, whether it's a grant or something like that the district gets.
Adam, you might have to, I used the document that you guys had used previous to this, and that's what I used as a starting point. And it wasn't clear to me where that was, those 50 grand things. It wasn't clear exactly what was in them, but it does have enough in there to do a school. It could be that some schools that maybe already have the beginnings of what we're looking for, a fob system, the beginning of some cameras, they might come in under 35,000, which means the district would be picking it up. Some schools where the school is just very far away from where those others are, it could be, as Dan said, over 50,000. It could be 67, 62, something like that even. So that's where the town would be picking up the cost of it. So the reason I highlighted those in that light tan color was to draw your attention and to get some input tonight. Should I move all of those to FY22, and we'll see where they all fall once we get these more details behind it, and we can get you a much closer estimation of what it's going to be per school. It could be that the total amount for all the schools is kind of similar, but it could be that individually some schools will be under and some could be over. So
I guess what I was driving at is, it's not necessarily clear to me in this what is school district funded and what is town funded. Unless school district is just local budget.
school is local. Anytime it says local, and I could put school in there or district, I could change those words around if you'd prefer that for the going to the full, as opposed to capital, which we assumed would be, it's above the $35,000 threshold, and it would be taken up by the towns on a vote.
You know, the
Okay.
other thing to keep in mind too is that the regional agreement is being looked at, you know, as you all know, I don't think it's going to happen. I'll take a leap of faith, but you know that threshold could change. Maybe it gets increased or maybe it gets decreased. I'll take a leap of faith and say that that's not going to happen. But again, just something to keep in mind. It'll probably stay at 35,000 for the indefinite future. But I just thought I'd throw it out there.
So I guess the only change I would have to it is, you know, there's, for example, Thomas Prince, it says local budget. Paxton, it says local funds.
Yep. I could change all those for you. I can call it
just some sort of, I guess, legend at the top or bottom that says,
Yep.
and I hope it's not there and I just missed it, but yeah, that just kind of describes what it is so that it's easy to anybody picking it up to go, okay, this, you know, without knowing that, okay, 35 is the magic number. They can pick it up and go, okay, this is who's paying for that, who's paying for that.
Do you want the term general fund, Adam?
I can use district. It says
Okay.
capital or district.
Yeah, district works. I think that makes sense. Mike, you had a question?
Question / comment. I just happened to see, I guess I browsed over this and didn't realize it. For Central Tree, 2.5 million for, is that 2.5 million for the new roof? It's in the distant future.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we try to space that out as we had the discussion earlier about making things easier to dissect.
We've left you all speechless.
Okay,
Watching these numbers change
I see
on
you.
here. Is 2023 like a year that can't be touched? Like it just can't be touched? Because it's half of what other things are.
Krista, my
I'm just
thinking
wondering.
around that was we have a lot of grants that are sort of feeding us right now, and pretty much all of those dry up in 2023. So I think
Okay.
that's going to be a much tougher year to get pretty much anything by, especially I wouldn't suggest we'd have a large ticket item that we're trying to get the towns to get on board with, because I think everybody's going to be able to, all right, now that the grants aren't here, what do we really have for funds? I think everybody will be very conservative, at least for that year, until they figure out where they're really at now with their revenues, local revenues.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Linda.
Yeah, that was actually what I was going to ask of tangentially to see if we could put the sprinklers in 23 versus waiting until 24, since 23 also looked like a light year. But for for those for Paxton and for Princeton, but that makes sense with the timing of the grants running out by then.
Dan could maybe speak to this. He might have this in his head, but there are some longer term borrowing that we've done that the towns are all paying on that's coming to an end pretty soon, but it's not in 23, but it's coming to an end pretty soon. And it's a good time then to say, hey guys, maybe you want to do some short-term borrowing. You don't have to pay on this anymore. And here's this. So, Dan.
Yeah, so as the committee knows, we refinanced our debt this past summer, and the towns are going to be, reaping the benefits of the savings. Money, as you know, is incredibly cheap right now. The rates are just incredibly cheap, and we've got about I think 7 more years, excluding this year here. So. Unfortunately, some of these bigger projects I think need to get pushed up, but we can certainly look at some of this stuff. But in about 7 years, thereabouts, that debt is going to be off the books. And there may be an opportunity to tackle other bigger projects and through some short-term borrowing. And I'm not saying 15 years or 20 years, maybe a little bit less than that, or maybe the district does some short-term borrowing, working with its FA financial advisor. Now that that other debt will be off the books, so there's some there's some I guess opportunities down the road, borrowing opportunities once you clear some older debt.
So you're going to redo the ECC in FY28? Is that what you said? Or just build a new one?
Well, I think we talked about this ever so briefly, but we did have a conversation a year ago with MSBA, Daryl and myself, and we were speaking to them about an SOI, statement of interest, and it just didn't happen. I think it was a year ago, and then COVID hit, the pandemic hit, and the rest, as I say, is history. I mean, it's certainly, if it were to happen, that's a discussion you'd have to have with the town of Holden to see if there's any interest. I mean, as it is now, they've got the new DPW building, if I recall, Adam, that's on the books, and they'll be on the books for a couple of years.
Yep. And nothing's cheaper to build anymore, so. It's cheaper to get the money, but not to build it. Okay. Any other discussion on this? All right. So after these edits, would anybody like to make the motion to recommend that it be brought forward to the full committee?
So moved.
So
Do I have to say it?
no, you're using my language, which I guess is that good language to?
Adam, could you put it in the chat
Sure.
just to make sure I've got it correct for the minutes?
So, Adam, I just have to ask the question. So this committee is going to move it forward. Does this need to be brought to finance, or can you just bring it to the full committee?
It might be a good idea to give them a heads up. I'm not sure it necessarily needs to be an agenda item unless, is it Ken now? I don't even remember. It's been so many changes. Yeah, unless Business and Finance says we would like to talk about it and they have a meeting between now and then. But even if not, I would recommend that that you send them a copy outside of a meeting and say, FYI, this is what facilities and security laid out for the capital plan. So.
Thank you.
I'm done editing it, so the document's complete now. So whatever you're motioning to bring forward is fine. And Adam, I think you're correct that you can always bring it to the full committee, and if they would like to send it to finance, they can do that. If there's action items in there that finance needs to sort of figure out how we're going to do this, then absolutely can go down to them. Yep.
All right, Mike. So is what you read in the chat, and I'll read it out loud. Recommend to bring the 10-year capital plan forward to the full school committee. Is the motion that you made?
Yes, as it is written at this point in time, yes.
Okay, perfect. And Linda, is that the motion?
Oh, yeah, I just copied it.
All right. Any additional discussion on the motion to bring it forward to the full committee? Seeing none. Mike?
Yes.
Linda?
Yeah.
And Krista?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for putting
Progress.
it there.
Thank you. And thank you for the color coding. I love good color
Seriously.
coding. Thank you.
That was Dan. Dan was the color guy on that.
What? That's great. Good job.
He's not just a pretty face, he color codes too.
An artist, a singer, a stand-up comedian, the whole package.
Blown away.
Go for it.
Hey, listen, I am the Renaissance School Business Administrator. You guys had no idea what you were getting into when you hired me.
No emojis,
Okay, we're having-
though. So next time, emojis. Okay?
What's that, Krista?
Emojis next time, so that we have little pictures of what the thing is going to be next to the item.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
I'll delegate that to you, Krista. As we say, thank you for volunteering.
All right, I'm going to bring this down a little bit, and we're going to move into policies.
I gotta go.
Yeah. All right, so the first one up is facility usage. So Bob did the hard work of looking over everything. And as I read it, your proposed actions are to revise and update P7110 and then move on to delete 7112 and 7113.
Yep.
All right.
Dan, did you want to go over that document on I can present it on the screen here.
Yeah, if you could just drive the boat there for a second, Bob,
Sure.
please. So one of the things that we saw, as this committee here knows, is that there were a number of policies that were very old, that had not been reviewed in a number of years, and in that process of looking at these policies in particular, we're recommending to this group here that if possible, that we combine a couple of policies into one, which I think, at least we think, but we don't want to speak for the committee, addresses what the policy should be. So this here, can you just make that a tad bigger, Bob? Thank you. My eyes, I tell you, maybe I should put my glasses on. I don't know, but that's not going to help me either. So what we've done.
Closer.
I'm sorry, Adam.
Just move closer.
Boy,
Or further away.
boy, tough. This is a tough crew tonight for the final meeting. My goodness gracious.
It's the same crew. We're
It
always.
is. So it's all good. So as you can see, this is the existing policy, and what we're looking to recommend is that there be a number of deletions, at the beginning of the policy, and we looked at policies from MASC as well as from the Lexington School Department, and we we brought them into this policy here. and we think it's a little bit more in line with the building usage. I'm not going to go into each and every line, but again, getting rid of a couple of policies and making things much more succinct. So I'm seeing a lot of nodding of heads, like yes, yes, yes.
Just reading through it real quick.
Mike?
So I want to check and see where we're saying a rental fee may be charged, meaning optional, correct?
Yes, correct.
At the discretion of the district.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if I may, that's actually very common practice, Mike, in other districts, depending upon the group that may be requesting use of space.
Okay. I just wanted to be specific because I know may and shall can be important in certain documents.
Absolutely, correct.
And we do have approved rates at the moment.
We do, Adam.
They're still the old ones?
No, that was finance reviewed them. It's probably been 2 years now, because we were virtual a year ago at this time. So need to revisit those rates for sure, but they have been updated.
Okay.
And as you can see, some of these, this goes back 20 plus some odd years. Mike?
I think Linda was in front of me, but I have one quick thing, and that is, do we need to add no drug use to this? I see smoking and I see alcoholic beverages. I didn't know if we need to add any other terminology to that. Yes, no?
Bob, I think Bob's got his cursor there. I guess on number 5, you could, alcoholic beverages are, illegal drugs.
Yes, we could do just what Dan said. We could add that in there, or illegal drugs. Yep.
Okay.
Good catch.
So, funny question now that we're in Massachusetts. So, what about something like edible cannabis?
Illegal, under 18 years old.
What if I'm an adult?
Yeah.
Would need a
There's nothing
policy.
we can do.
Didn't the school committee look at tobacco and drug use on school grounds last year? I remember
I think so.
discussing this. Did it come to a second reading and everything?
So I think that so alcohol, I think it should be in the same. So just put it in there.
Number 5.
The
Krista.
absolute same. Yeah. Just put it in.
Yeah.
But apparently, marijuana is
It's
Yeah,
illegal.
it's not
or
illegal.
well, it's okay, alcohol or illegal drugs. Okay, so we don't have to be, because it's legal.
On the state level, it's legal. On the federal level, I believe it's still not legal.
So
That's correct.
do you want to write federally illegal drugs?
Well, no, because what if that passes? Is that still something?
No, well, because alcohol will
Right.
cover it all, right? That's a whole umbrella,
Yeah.
right? So we need to put an umbrella over.
Alcoholic. I'm sorry, I apologize. Alcoholic beverages are other types of substances.
Yeah. I mean, can we just say cannabis?
Give me a minute. Let me look at. We have some of this on the with some other policies. So give me a minute, and I'll go.
Well, that's it. I feel like there's another policy.
Cannabis is the
Just reference that
PC
policy.
May I?
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
That's what I was just going to ask was, could we reference another policy in this as according to blank?
Yeah, as long as we know what it is.
Yeah.
All right. While Bob's looking, Linda, why don't you go?
Yeah, so sorry, I just got a little turned around there. We did do this last year, right before COVID. We updated. I'm just gonna put it in the chat, but my question was about something else, and I think I'll remember once I divert my attention back. Oh yeah, my question was about do we have a facilities rental revolving fund in existence already? That's what I just want to make sure.
We do.
Okay.
Yep. And
Um,
let me, I'll look up something for you just in terms of what the receipts were like. So I'll be back in a second. Go
I
ahead.
have other unrelated questions too about just a couple notes of in the beginning of the policy. I don't think, and maybe I missed it, that the policy says who is doing the permitting, right? So the school committee has to approve any individuals or organizations to use the school buildings, et cetera, or is it the principal, the superintendent? I just want to make sure that's clarified.
It should be the principal, then forwarded to the superintendent for final sign off. And one thing that I had also suggested is that perhaps the business administrator be involved because the business administrator would be the gatekeeper, for lack of a better term, in terms of the receipts. If someone hasn't paid their bill, we would be for lack of a better term, the bad guys, if you will, in terms of tracking down revenue. Again, we gotta keep the lights on. We gotta pay the heat. We gotta pay the custodian, perhaps overtime and things of that. I've found in my experience that the buildings have a lot going on, and though they're willing to allow someone to use like their gymnasium, for example, for a rec basketball league on a Thursday night, with all that's going on in buildings, they may not have the human capital or the time to track down like an outside group if they haven't paid their bill, so to speak.
All right.
I had one more question about overlap with other policies too. So just like we have policies where there's no smoking, etc. on the on school grounds. But what about other things like harassment or those kinds of policies? Would the fact that a rental fee is collected be construed as the school district exercising oversight or endorsed an activity or like something like that? That's what I just wanted to see what the boundaries are.
That's a good question on the Lexington Public Schools sample policy, which is at the bottom of our agenda under references there. They do take a little bit of space, and they mention things such as the rentee is responsible for abiding by all state laws and regulations, those types of things, which includes no bullying, discrimination, illicit drug use, all that type of stuff. So we don't have to necessarily capture the exact words in there. I'll throw one more thing on the agenda. I threw a link down on the agenda for the use of a drug-free workplace, the requirement for a drug-free workplace. So, and I'll find the thing about students here in a minute.
So, Linda, if I may, for 30 seconds, you were just asking about building rental accounts, if you will, and I'm just looking at the balance sheet that I submitted to DOR when we had our free cash certified. You know, all of our buildings it's a building use account, so that would be the depository for these rental accounts. You know, Mount View at the end of 20, their balance was 15,359. Davis Hill was 2506. Dawson 7831. Mayo 7357, and so on and so on and so on. So, you know, there is some cash there, not a heck of a lot of cash, and last year's probably not a very good example just because of COVID. The reason why Mount View had the balance that they had is that they had an outside group who was pretty regular about using their facility. I think that has since come to an end. So that's just more information. That's all. But I want to share that with you.
All right.
On the agenda, I threw down a link to the adults, which says that we need to have a drug-free workplace. And there's also a second link that has to deal with students, and they may not possess alcohol, drugs, and something, or tobacco. And in both those policies, they don't refer to it as illegal drugs. They refer to it as they may not possess or consume a controlled substance. So that's how the words are in there. All of our policies still hold sway, even if it doesn't necessarily say it in one particular policy, the word. So we could call it controlled substance, you know, in this policy if you prefer. I can make links to both of these documents at the bottom of that policy that we're kind of working on right now as well.
Mike, go ahead.
With so Krista brought up a good point with what she put in the chat. It is still illegal to consume marijuana in public. With that said, do we need to be including that in the policy or not?
You do not, because if there's a state law, a state regulation, if there's a local ordinance or something, those still hold sway and people have to abide by them. Even if our local policy does not mention it, you still have to abide by those.
So if that's the case, maybe it's not worth spinning our heads around this, spinning our wheel.
I'm good with that.
So if you want to have something in there, you could simply say alcoholic beverages or drugs or not, blah, 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 or controlled substances or not, or you could use any words like that and just move on. Or not. Take them out.
I think controlled substances is going to be a hard one because we do have kids on prescription controlled substances.
Yeah, those are certainly allowed.
Yep. So
Right.
We might not be able to use that, but I get what you're saying.
You guys have edit rights to that doc, so if you want to change a word, you can just jump in there and click on it and change it.
Adam knows. I can see it in his head.
Do you want to leave it as illegal drugs? Do you want to
knows
leave
the
it
word.
I think for now, I think I'm good leaving it illegal drugs.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's any better way without going down the rabbit hole, and I don't think there is. So, I mean, it covers it. And even saying illegal drugs is actually sort of redundant because they're illegal, so they're not allowed.
Right.
We're calling out, you know, no smoking, no alcohol, and other things are illegal to do in the school anyway. So I would actually be okay with getting rid of or illegal drugs.
No numbing agents.
like talking about policies?
Yeah, too late.
Although I originally suggested adding this, given our recent discussion, I would say let's backtrack and not add it.
You can delete it, guys. Anyone can click on it.
All right, I'll do it.
Yep, and you got it. And I can reference at the bottom where they have the legal refs, the references, the legal references. I think that's a powerful thing to have those on there. I could also reference local policy, other school committee policies, and put that below and list these 2 policies, one about the adults, one about the kids. So
Yeah, that works. So I do have a question on number 7. I think it's a good idea. Did any of our previous policies that we're replacing also have that requirement that whoever's renting it have liability insurance?
Dan, that's a you question.
I'm sorry, Adam. I was just typing something here.
Oh, so did any of the policies that we're replacing with this one have the requirement that the person, whatever group is, using the facility, have liability insurance?
Yes, absolutely. That would be that would be a requirement of any application that they submit to the district. And again, that's frankly that's good practice to include that with their application to indemnify the district from any harm whatsoever.
Okay. Mike.
Do these policies apply equally to both, I guess I would call it district buildings versus town buildings? So be it at the elementary level or high school level, do they apply equally?
Yes, this would apply to any district building, which even if it's owned by the town, it would.
So how does that work with, for example, either a volunteer organization or the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts want to hold a meeting in the school?
They still go through the school offices, whether it's started at the school or not, and it ends up at the district. They still come through us, so we're the renter of this space. They don't go through the town to rent one of these buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So these policies are what we use to guide our decisions here. So that's why it's important.
Okay.
So I would just ask that maybe we clarify that first line about who's doing the permitting, the allowing, because it's just blank at the moment or vague that the committee. It implies, I think, that the committee is doing the permitting. Should we have the chain, or is it just that this is allowed? I mean, my opinion anyway is that we should probably mark who it's going through.
So
about building principal to central office, something like that.
So I could almost go both ways on this, and part of it is, whether do we get into the realm of dictating procedure, or it's just our policy that the district should permit individuals to do this. So, we as a committee say, superintendent, come up with a way to permit individuals to do this according to this policy. We don't necessarily want to say to use this building, contact this person.
Let me throw something in right before the numbers, or at the top. I'll put it right after proposed new language here. Let me throw some language in. It'll be red here. This is from the MASC model policy. Yeah, Krista, you're right there. Let me turn it red here. If I can do that.
Okay.
That's from the MASC model policy. So we could certainly put that in the appropriate place, and you guys can move that around to wherever you want. I'm going to go finish my links here.
I like that because it says the office of the superintendent.
Right. And that's something that could be delegated to the buildings.
Right.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was looking for. Some sort of specific target. Who are you supposed to be going through to make it happen? And that's, it shouldn't be coming before the school committee at one of our full committee meetings. And I think it was implied with the other language that it would have to be presented to us as a motion or whatever approval.
All right, so I moved it after the first sentence. I'm open to suggestions on not putting it there. Saw a couple thumbs up.
Yep, looks good to me.
All right. Any other comments on this policy?
And Adam,
Yep.
just I used an acronym in there. Just want to make sure that you're all good with it. WRSD SC, Wachusett Regional School District School Committee. Are you good with that?
Now that you bring it up, I'm not.
All right. Just
Now I am.
I just shot myself in the foot. Nice.
School district. So I think I would actually just make it WRSDC. Or should it be WRSDC?
All right. So you can just go in there. Okay.
Which do we generally use as a rule of thumb? I've seen
I
both.
feel like we usually go by WRSDC, but I could be completely wrong.
I think you're officially called the Wachusett Regional District School Committee.
Really? Why so many schools?
Goodness, there's no
That's too repetitive.
Wachusett Regional. Rebecca knows. I'll get an answer and we'll change it to whatever it's supposed to be. So we don't have to figure that out tonight.
Okay.
Sorry. We got to get it right.
We
you know?
do. We do. We absolutely do. And we will.
Hold on.
WRSDC.
That would be W. Say it one more time, Krista. I'm processing.
WRSDC.
Wachusett Regional District.
School District Committee.
School District Committee. And if that's not right, then it is in several places wrong.
Okay.
Policies.
Not that official, no. Did I look in policies? I'll look.
That's
What
what
are
I was
you-
looking for, but
Krista, what are you looking at, if I can ask?
The abbreviation there.
I know, but where is she finding that? Is all I'm saying.
Oh, I found it on the student reports website in several places. So I figure if that, and they are on top of things. They probably know who we are more than we know who we are.
okay.
Fill the lug there.
If we've got a policy of, I agree with that sentiment, by the way, but the policy of for the 1000 series, like our operations, etc. So powers and duty refers to us as WRSDC, one S only, just
And
the
that-
first one.
Also in the alcohol, tobacco, and drug use policy we just did, and it includes the acronym.
And honestly, why repeat words?
So I will go with it as written right now. Does that look good? How do I delete this comment? All right. Any other comments, questions,
I have one, just on the number one. It starts with in addition. I think that should be struck and just begin with the building user.
Yep.
Although I did actually have a question about that. I forgot. The sample policy, I think, had a first one, those like A through F. Users will comply with the laws of the state, etc. Is there a reason why those aren't necessary, or I can pull up where I'm talking about too. If that's helpful.
It's a suggestion on their end. We don't absolutely have to have that. I think what Dan and I did is we tried to meld the model policy from MASC and Lexington Public Schools policy, which is also an MASC policy. And they're slightly different, but
Yeah, it does lay out, you know, people have to follow the State Department of Public Safety, state and local fire laws, state and local police laws, internal revenue admission laws, state laws relating to rental of school facilities, and a memorandum of understanding.
yeah, that's local to them.
Yeah.
So you could use those. You absolutely could put those in there.
I'm not sure we need to put it in there.
I'm not sure that's what we thought.
Because they have to do that anyway, whether it's our policy or not. You know, it's almost one of those things. If you missed one, then they're like, "Oh, well, you didn't say we had to follow that one." It's like you just got to follow them all, guys. Just everybody get in line, figure it out. So I don't know. I'm not sure it needs to be added, but if somebody else does, I'm willing to do it.
No, I just was curious about why that part wasn't added in, but the other parts were. And I agree. I think once you start listing out those, then loopholes are,
Right.
you know, people will look for it.
All right. So I guess, I mean, are we happy enough with this policy to actually, do we need to bring it up a second time in this group, or are we happy enough to move it forward to a first reading at the full committee?
It does not need to go by a second reading at this level. If you guys are in support, like, yep, this is better than what we had, and part of the motion you would make would be to bring this new policy forward, and it would have the number of 7,110, 7110, and you'd also mention that you wanted to delete the other two policies, the 7112 and 7113. One of them, we don't do daycare. We're not in the business of daycare. It's kind of irrelevant. That's where we started last time. And the 7112 is so narrow that this policy takes a bigger, broader picture and sort of incorporates it. So 7112 isn't really needed any longer. That's what Dan and I came to the conclusion, and that's what we're advising tonight.
So then to bring it to the full committee, it would be to recommend to the full committee to revise policy 77110 for a first reading. Something I'm stumbling over the words here.
All you would do, and they would straighten it out in the central office. What you do is you would make a recommendation to bring to revise policy 7110 and to delete policy 7112 and 7113. It would come up, and the first time it's there, it would be Chair Dennis would say this is a first reading, and then it would come back for a second reading.
Yeah, in the full committee, those might need to be three separate motions, one right after the other, just because maybe. I don't
We've
know.
done it before where it's all kind of in one thing, because in Ed Sub, to get through some of that stuff when we were under the audit by the state and we had to update our policies, we had to delete some and add some, and you guys as the sponsor of this new policy would be the front line of answering some questions from fellow members as to, well, what did you think about this, or why did you put this in here?
So, but yeah, I mean, we can definitely do it all in one fancy motion.
So then I'd like to make a motion to recommend the updated policy 7,110 for what, I've lost my words already. I am so sorry. So I make a motion to bring this policy to the full committee and delete policies 7,112 and 7,113. Hold on.
Maybe throw something in there, Linda, to the effect as presented by administration to Facilities and Security Subcommittee, something like that, maybe.
Okay.
Well, no, we made a little edits. I would just go with,
Absolutely did. This is your policy, man. 100%.
yeah.
Is there a second to Linda's wonderful motion?
You're so kind, Bob.
Is that the final wording of the motion?
I have no idea, honestly.
I'm happy with that wording. So,
Can anybody repeat it back to me?
Did you want to repeat it back, Mike, on what maybe you would like to?
I would add as, what was the wording? I don't know if it'd be as read or as written. And then today's date.
As presented and discussed. Presented and discussed.
You could certainly put those things in there. Absolutely. Are you okay with that, Linda? Would you allow that to go on to your motion?
Sure. Let me just make sure that I've got this down.
If it's not correct, what'll happen is Randy will reach out to you and say, Linda, I think this is what you really meant to say, in that motion, and it'll get, that's how it is.
Okay, as read. Sorry. So, Mike, you had added. So, what I have so far is to recommend to bring to the full committee policy 7,110 and delete 7,112 and 7,113 as read on April 21st, 2012. 21. Is that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
so are you seconding that?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
My goodness.
All right. Any discussion?
My word.
Hey, it's fine. We checked all the boxes. We're good. All right. Any other discussion on it? Nope. All right, Linda, you made the motion, so I'll start with you. Linda?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Someone's being difficult. Okay, so that motion carries, and we'll bring this this policy and the deleted policies up at the next full school committee meeting on May 5th. Excellent.
So Adam, when you do bring that forward, do you then present it to the larger group for discussion, or does Linda jump in, or how you gonna work that?
So I'll take the lead on it and bring it up and let people ask questions, and then I'll do my best to answer. Then anybody else from the subcommittee, feel free to jump in and answer as well. Mike.
Excuse me. Maybe you could speak to this from a historical point of view, but are we expecting them to, for lack of a better word, nitpick or want to make adjustments to this? How does that work?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on how late in the evening it is, or
If they were to request adjustments, would it then come back to our subcommittee to make the adjustments and vote on it again? What's the process?
if it's minor, some people say, I think this should be with rather than, whatever. If it's a minor thing, okay, we can make the adjustments there. If it's something major, you would probably want to bring it back to this level so you could discuss it, at length and then bring it back to them.
Okay.
And as Adam said, sometimes, boy, they get hung up on some policies that we think that's a slam dunk. I mean, that's so, and other times we just need someone to say, look, guys, this is from your own group, MASC, and this is what they're recommending. And it kind of kills the debate then. So.
Okay.
And-
Thank you. That was my concern. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know if anything came up, I'm sure that cannabis question would come up. I kind of wanted to make sure we talked about it here. Came to some sort of consensus so that we could say we discussed that, and then that's why we went with this. So. That's why I'm good adding and then deleting the same words we just added, because we talked about it and we can address it. All right, so the next item is emergency plans. What's our time? 8:45? Okay.
Wow.
We're gonna look like we had like 4 meetings. All right, let's jump into this one. Okay, Mike. So the proposed action on here says to delete P151, 152, 158. All those preceded with a 7, and create a new policy 7155 based on the MASC model policy.
Bob, we need access to open that up. At least I can't open it up on that one here. I can't open it up.
Which one, Dan? Is that-
The proposed language.
Okay,
link.
give me 1 second.
Linda, Krista, and I can. You're all lucky.
Yeah, you can't. Okay, I'm okay. I'm out of luck. Penny shot and a day late. Story of my life.
It's coming, Dan. You give me 1 minute. You're the one that worked on this with me, so you absolutely should be able to. Just sent it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Adam and the rest of the subcommittee, the reason for the new numbering system is there's a policy that's sort of in between these, and it's important that this policy comes before policy 7156, which is called an emergency response plan. That's a subset of an emergency plan. So that's why I proposed to put this just before it, so that as people look through this, it would kind of make sense. This is a broader based policy that governs what an emergency plan should be, but it doesn't have all of the rules about an emergency plan. So 7115 comes just before 7156. So
Okay, that was one of my big questions on, did this cover 7156 or work in conjunction with? Okay. All right.
this is directly with no changes from the MASC model policy.
Yeah, I mean, 7152 is outdated and not really needed. And 7151, I think, is definitely taken up by the 7155 you just put out. Okay. Welcome back, Mike. Actually, just to bring you up to speed, so this is 7155 that is replacing a few others. There is 7156 on emergency response plans that Bob said he wanted to make sure that 7155 came before that current policy that we have, just so that they interact well together. There's This one's broadband, is a broad, whereas the other one is a little more narrowed. So
Could you say that again, please? You wanted to make sure what became first?
this one is going to be P7155 emergency plans. We wanted to make sure it came before P7156, which is the emergency response plan, which is a subset of the emergency plans. All right.
So I wanted to ask about, I think 7152, if that's being deleted, that was where these um, safety procedures, et cetera, are happening. And then that's covered in 7156. Is that true? Is that like more accurately covered?
I believe so.
And then the
Yes.
same for 7151. Because that's where I just didn't see how it got covered by the new language. But if it's covered in, I mean, it looks to me like it is. Is that the opinion too?
So the 7152 is an outdated policy in terms of what we're being asked to do. This new state law that actually requires us to have a more detailed safety plan, those types of things. So that's why I thought 7152, we got to do what's current, and I'm not sure this 7152 is really working for us right now. And by working for us, I'm not sure people are really following that necessarily. School plans is too general, and actually right now the state law has some very specific language which is included word for word in 7155. So if we've got to do it at the state level, we have a local policy that spells it out for us. Hey guys, you got to do 1 through 7 here. Come on, you got to do this stuff. Versus 7151, which is just this general thing that we need to have a plan that is safety in classrooms and all this. The power of the new state languages, it mentions that we have to have specific training so that when there is an emergency, we can speak the same language as the responders, the EMS training. So that's the power of that. It puts us into action to sort of take steps to be better prepared versus 7151 and 7152, which I think are more generic. Hey, you got to have a plan. Well, yeah, here's some generic plan. The new state guidelines say you got to have training guys so that you can understand how you are going to be able to manage these situations better. So to me, that's the power of what we're proposing tonight. Adam, Mike's got his hand up, I think.
Sorry, I was reading. Feel free to.
Yep.
We know what order you guys are.
I was just wondering, Bob, could you confirm that all of our school buildings do have portable AEDs?
Yes, they do. They do.
Okay.
And we've expanded the number that are out there. We replace batteries as needed. And even we don't wait for them to die. We do it on a regular basis. There's time intervals based on the device that we actually have. Some are replaced more often than others. That's an ongoing cost we have. The nurses are, they also train others, and we know how to do all that stuff. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Linda, I see your hand raised.
No, I just forgot to lower it.
You want to say anything anyway?
Or no, not this time, surprisingly.
You almost got her. Adam, you almost got her.
I don't want to be like a troublemaker, but I usually am. So I have a question. Well, actually, I don't know if it's like a question or you know, when I'm looking at these, and then some of the wording is talking about like inspections and requirements and stuff, and we're getting rid of or talking about getting rid of P7152 that talks about an inspection, and then the new one doesn't talk about inspections. That's going to kind of take over that. And then I'm thinking about the budget that we just were talking about, and the safety things that were in there that might not be within our schools right now. You know, I don't know if there's like a connection there. Someone can kind of put a question to my thought pattern but in there, but there's, for me, it's like, it's sitting funky for me in there.
Krista, on this policy that we're reading right now, if you go to the bottom where it says legal reference and click on that, you'll come to the state language on this law, and it tells you what you have to have in place. And that's what this policy is following. And maybe that would let you
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
feel a little better about why do we have these words in here. And these are pretty tough words to have in a policy. We're being told that by the state law. So to me, that's the power of it. We're mirroring the state law, but we're bringing it here local and saying, hey guys, you got to do this here locally. You know, that's the power of having this policy here.
When we're deleting a policy such as 7151, are we at all concerned that the policy we're putting in place is not specific enough, or do we want to be more broad with what we're requiring for it? I mean, I think it's almost too specific in 7151, but I don't think we're mentioning what's required in the plans in the new policy.
The policy that follows this in number is our emergency response plan. That's also based on law. That's pretty significant. So my point, I guess I'm making tonight is, rather than having these outdated policies that require all these other plans, we're being asked to do some pretty detailed stuff here by law now. Let's have a policy that aligns with that and get rid of the extraneous things that people aren't really doing right now anyways. And there's not a lot of guts to these other things. There just isn't. The new ones are extremely specific. We have to provide certain metrics in there as well. So that's what I'm trying to do, is say we should align with what the state's telling us we have to do now by state law. The other thing that's kind of in the back of my head, some of these older policies, when you see things that are out here in the 90s that were created, a lot of those came from Ohio. They did not come from Massachusetts. So the other thing I'm trying to do is to get us to, if MASC doesn't have a similar policy, let's just move away from this stuff and move into the Massachusetts policies. And it just makes more sense.
All right, that makes sense.
Linda, you got your hand up. I don't know if that's all right.
I guess I would just ask, just to make sure. So I see that we have the emergency response plans about training, about the drills, but that so like that routine maintenance that you were talking about, Bob, and like those kinds of items, are those housed in other policies that we have? Does MASC have those kinds of safety policies that are on like maintenance of equipment? Is just kind of trying to round it out, right? Of to make sure that we're not leaving a hole that we don't intend to.
So on the agenda that I gave you guys at the bottom of that, the agenda is some resources, and one of those is a link to the MASC model policies.
Yep. And he just hit the wrong button. So until Bob comes back, if everybody looks at the, I think it's the one that everybody's in. I just added a number 8 and highlighted it. I don't know if you'll need to refresh. But it was, kind of based on what you guys were talking about. That's what I was thinking, in addition to the hit the wrong button, Bob.
Yes, I did. Sorry about that.
So,
Welcome back.
yeah.
Thank you. If you go into that MASC front end, you can type in a search for a word up there, something unique. So you were doing maintenance, maybe that's what you want to look up, Linda, in there, something like that, or any unique word, and you can see if there's a similar MASC policy. Sometimes our exact policies here, you have to think more broadly with the word to find it, but usually with one or two tries in MASC, you can see if they really have a similar policy or not. So by asking these questions, we could certainly set the stage for future work that this group might want to do. If you find something in there like, oh yeah, they have this, let's discuss that at a future meeting. It makes more sense to bring something that's current from MASC forward rather than something from the early 90s from another state that we kind of have.
I have to laugh about that they're from Ohio, just because my husband is from Ohio, so that just cracks me up. But no, so what I didn't understand my notes before. What I had written down was the MASC policy EB, the safety program, and what I neglected to do was to see if we had our version. I don't know if we do or not, but that was what, because that has it's about accidents are undesirable, unplanned occurrences, etc. And then it has about safety requirements established by governmental authorities. And so it also has about, it's also instructional program in this. I can put it in the chat. It might be the easiest thing so that you can see what I'm looking at.
So what I'd say is, as a group, you guys are at the front end of trying to sort through some of these differences, and sometimes it could seem like it's almost preventing you from making some progress because you're like, oh my goodness, we should do this, we should do that. If you feel solid that we could move forward, and if you don't want to delete one of those other policies, you don't have to delete them. That's just Dan and I's recommendation based on what we went through today. You don't have to delete it, but you certainly could move forward with adopting the new language and maybe replacing one or more of the other policies. So you certainly could leave some still on the table if you'd like.
Could I guess from my point of view, I would suggest that we maintain 7152 and put that on a future business for the subcommittee, because that is, just kind of scanning through the policies that might overlap with that one from MASC. I think this one is the most likely to fit that to fit that sample and that angle of what we're looking for here. I think. I don't know what others think of that. That's just one opinion.
I'm just looking at the policy EB as well. I think there's definitely more overlap with EB over the 7152.
And I think that's the power of having us come forward with you with recommending something, because then that gives you something to react to and then say, we're going to do this, but we're not going to do that. So that's all right. That's fine.
So I had put in, based on the discussion before, I had just typed in an item number 8 and highlighted it. It just said the emergency plans shall include inspection and maintenance intervals for safety equipment located within the schools. I think there definitely should be somewhere some record of what those inspection and maintenance intervals are for that equipment. Like when do all these fire extinguishers expire? When do, and then just, even if it's just a plan that they will be inspected yearly for their, expiration date and stat and charge, things like that. Now, whether it's appropriate for this policy or a policy similar to EB, I'm open to anything. I think it's something that we probably should have somewhere. And I don't know if I didn't really see a model policy that included something like that.
It's perfectly all right, Adam, to have a statement in some policy that maybe gets expanded upon at a later time or something. But for right now, it's important to include it here. It doesn't make it off-putting to have it in there by any means.
Yeah, it's just, I think it makes sense to have, because I think we're all kind of realizing, like, yeah, to have all this awesome safety equipment, and then when you go to use it and it doesn't work because there's no batteries or whatever, we're good at staying on top of that right now, but Bob's leaving, so who's going to do that?
But these things are inspected. We work closely with the local fire department. The nurses are all over the AEDs. So I mean, it's something that we do. We're on top of now without any specific policy that's pushing us. And some of this comes from state laws and regulations that demand that these things are put into play.
Right. Okay. So I guess thoughts from everybody on leaving or deleting that?
And that would be the number 8 on the model policy that you highlighted, right, Adam?
Yep. And
I don't see that it does any harm to keep it.
I agree.
So it looks like they're supporting you. Linda, did you have something different? Did you feel differently?
I did not feel differently.
Okay.
Thank you for checking.
Yep.
Right. Fixed it up. I took, like 2 years of German, so suddenly 20 years ago. So
I was wondering about that, Adam. I was thinking that looks quite German.
every noun, like ever since. I don't know. There we go.
Nice.
All right. All right. Any other comments on this policy?
So Adam, the same drill as the previous policy then. Someone will make a motion, you bring it forward to the full committee and
Yep.
on May 5th.
And so there's currently 3 that are on the chopping block: 7151, 7152, and 7158. Linda, I believe, stated her preference to keep 7152 for the near term, and look at replacing that with EB in the future. And hopefully she'll be on the subcommittee in the future and can bring that up. So I think I'm good with that, unless anybody else disagrees. So if anybody would like to take a stab at making a motion.
Are you really?
Yeah, all right. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. I feel like the chair shouldn't necessarily make the motions, but I'll do it since I think I have the words. So, and I think we're all on the same page. So I make a motion to bring forward the new policy P7155, titled Emergency Plans, for reading at the full school committee, and delete policy P7151 and P7158.
Second.
Who's gonna move that policy? Who's doing that? Who's gonna move it?
Oh, I made that motion.
You want to
So
make
you
it?
made the motion.
Yeah, I made the motion and I'll let Krista second it.
I'm still a bit concerned about not specifically mentioning which drills are going to need to be practiced and evaluated.
So the way I'm reading this policy, like, is this one's for fire, civil emergencies, and natural disaster. And then there's also another policy that we're keeping that also mentions fire drills, but also has bus evacuation drills, other evacuation drills, lockdown drills, severe weather drills, and gets into a little more details of that.
And which one is that mentions lockdowns and that stuff?
P7156.
That's the one you're leaving alone.
Do we have a link to that?
Put it in there.
Maybe.
It should be in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that changed my mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, that was why they wanted to make 7155 come before 7156.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, start with Krista.
Yes.
And Mike,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that passes unanimously. We're working hard tonight, guys. I'm proud of
You are.
everybody.
You
We're
are.
so good at this.
You
So
guys are actually. Nice job.
All right. So we are in the last 50 minutes. I do not want to go past 10. I would prefer to stop even earlier than that. I do want to bring this guiding document forward to the next subcommittee, but I'm also happy with leaving it on the agenda for that subcommittee to discuss, and we could skip over it. Because, I mean, there is some updates that I feel we do need to hit. So I guess I'm looking for any comments on which order, whether we want to push the guiding document off to the next subcommittee or
Given the current time, I would be fine with pushing it off.
okay.
Yeah,
I bet we could get it done. Read it out loud. We can do this.
No.
Well, I was thinking that it's been worked on from a previous meeting, and it seems like a pretty good spot of like a handoff, right? What the people who have had the experience thought, and now handing it off to the next reorganized group. It
Okay.
doesn't need to be perfect, I think. And looking at the time, that's my take.
So I think that's a good point. You know, we have looked at it at previous meetings. I've made a few edits, and unless anybody has significant issues with the clean final document there, we're not bringing it forward to the full committee. We're just leaving it on the table for the next subcommittee to pick up as sort of this subcommittee's general intent. Does that sound good? All right. Okay. So moving on, update on return to full in-person learning. Bob's typing furiously. Something just in.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a text while we were in the meeting updating things. So.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, the high school is pretty well all set. What you had probably read earlier was we were waiting on desks. Dan found out that those desks were delivered today. There were 250 additional desks that they needed. The high school earlier had lent some of the middle school's desks, and those needed there. So we ended up buying the high school for some of the desks they needed. And they also found they could fit a few more desks in the classrooms to help with the overflow of some of the larger classes. So some of these additional desks are for that. They've also bought plywood because they have to use the other large gym. The large gym, they have to use the other half of it for lunch to make it work. And so to protect the floor, they put down plywood and set desks, and they're setting desks up in there as well. So as of today, I'm happy to say the high school is pretty well all set to welcome the kids back on Monday, which is a good thing. A good thing. A lot of work went behind the scenes to make that work. Went on behind the scenes. Dan, did you want to add anything?
Pretty much a summation. I'm just really happy that we got the desk in today on some pretty short order. That's for sure. And they'll be there for the kids when they come back next week.
All of those desks were paid for with the state COVID grant, which is detailed down below. So that's a good thing. Want me to move on, Adam, to MCAS?
Sure. Yeah, I don't see any questions.
Just so you guys are
There you
aware.
go. I knew it.
Of course, now I have one. But
You look like you were
Bobby,
holding it back, and then okay.
I was debating if it was the right time just to ask a quick question because Desi had updated the change of what counts as a close contact for schools only.
Yep.
And so just wondering if parents will be notified, even if they don't have to have their child quarantined, if they're beyond 3 feet of a positive, would they be notified? At least would we still maintain that we use the CDC 6 feet for a close contact, or are we using if you're in a school building, it doesn't matter.
We're going to use the state definition of what a close contact is. And Daryl's going to be, I believe, updating that information and pushing it out to parents. And I'm not sure it's this week's, because I'm not sure if he has one going out this week newsletter or if it'll be out next week. But he's definitely going to do that. So what changed is in a classroom where masks are on the bus where masks are on, close contacts are anybody within 3 feet. In the cafeteria where masks are off, or where kids are performing physical exercise, like in a gym class, it's 6 feet is a distance of close contact. So that remains unchanged. So it's just in those situations where they're in a classroom with the masks on, it's now 3 feet. And that's true for adults as well as for students. So that's what's changed as of earlier this week.
Right, that was really recent. Is there an opportunity for families to be contacted if they're beyond the 3 feet, but within the 6 feet other definition that's used in every other building besides schools?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an opportunity for parents to be alerted that their child was not within 3 feet, but was within 6 feet? Because I could imagine that there would be scenarios where families would need to have that extra caution for outside of school reasons and would be counting on that alert to know how their own behavior needs to change. Is there an opportunity for that alert to still happen, that you don't need to quarantine, but you were within 6 feet?
There is an opportunity for that, and we'll need to discuss that internally with our building administrators and our nurses as well. What ends up happening once we get the kids back in K-8, and we've had a few close contacts, went across a couple schools. In a couple cases, it was 20 kids, 22 in one, and it was over 30 in another. It was 31 in another school, close contacts. It ends up essentially bringing the school almost to its knees with the nurses and the administration having to just get this done. It's very time sensitive. If it happens during the day that the kid finds out that they tested positive and they're at school and they didn't know that, they were going to be positive, we have to put the brakes on all other things. And with the administration having to do lunch duty, it's a little different now. So it really almost brings the school to its knees. So I think what we'll do is we'll discuss that, Linda. I can't sit here and say, absolutely, we will make sure that we get that done. But that's something we certainly will explore. So that's what I can tell you today.
I appreciate that discussion. I know that, nothing is clean, nothing is, and the schools are very clean. I mean that none of these
They really
decisions are clean,
They
right?
really are. It's amazing.
Yes, the schools are amazing. I
Yeah.
agree. But I'm just thinking on on a personal level, if I found out that my child was within 6 feet, so he doesn't need to quarantine, well, that might change if
Yep.
I decide that he gets to visit my, 90-year-old father. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And so just so that families are informed so that
Yep.
they can make their wider reaching decisions appropriately without poor repercussions. So
Yep.
thank you for having bringing that discussion. I appreciate that.
I'll bring that up with Daryl when he returns on Monday. Absolutely. Wanted to make the group aware because there's some busing implications. Maybe you're thinking about schools and crowding and all this. The high school with MCAS, we have to get the kids who are remote only, bring them into school so they can take the MCAS test. We've already made arrangements with the busing company to get this done. The high school's already figured out where the kids are going to be to take the MCAS test. They'll be there. They're anticipating that almost all kids should be done by 10:30. The buses will be back for an 11 o'clock pickup to bring the kids back home just before the lunches start. And that's how we'll handle it at the high school. That's going to be, I might be off by a day here, but it's like May 2nd, 3rd, and then maybe it's 3rd, 4th, and then whatever that Wednesday is, the 5th or something, and then they're not in, and then it's the Thursday, Friday, those 2 days. So it's 4 days on that first full week of May is when the cohort C kids, the kids that are remote only, will be coming into the high school to take part in this year's MCAS. For grades 3 through 8, it's optional if the kids want to come in. They can take it at home. They can be remote. The only drawback, and what we're still trying to get the final details on, they have to be on a machine that can handle the state's testing site. And some home computers cannot do that. And so that's on us to make sure that the local machines really are up. We've collected back a lot of our Chromebooks so that we're able to support kids in class. So there could be some that they need to borrow, but we still had to have enough Chromebooks to be able to test the kids in school. So we're still figuring out the nuances of that and what that might look like. Just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. That's all I got to say on those two. Linda's got her hand up, I think.
Oh,
Of
go
course
ahead.
I do.
I was just being frustrated that the state didn't decide to skip it. But
Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of where I'm going to, at the minimum, that the remote only students have to be brought into a building that I mean, I don't see how they can get from point A to point B, where families have said that they need to keep their children out of the buildings. And now we have a full return to school. So for those families who are already concerned, already caught between a rock and a hard place, now it's even more, it's even tighter. I mean, let's turn the vice again.
I don't know what to say about that, and I probably shouldn't say anything. We were told what we have to do, and we're making it work. The high school is going to go above and beyond. They do on these situations to make the kids feel welcome, to make sure that they understand where they can sit. It's going to be in an area that's away from the other kids. That's how it's going to be set up at the high school, and they always do a good job with that. The kids up there, that's a monstrous building, and the kids don't feel alienated for the most part up there, which is, a plus to that crew up there and how they run that building. So they'll meet the kids, they'll get them in, they'll get them into the right spot, and make them feel good about it as best they can. It's MCAS. It's what
Right.
it is.
Yeah, of all the years that it could be skipped, it's a shame it's not this one, right? I mean, honestly, I don't know what, I'll save it. But I guess what I would just offer is, of any time that maybe it's okay to alienate the remote only when you're having to bring them into a more crowded room than they've probably experienced for the past better year plus.
Yep. And
It might be
over
okay to really spread them out.
do your best now. There you go. Have fun. Put that anxiety aside. Yeah, we're going to make it work because we're told we need to make it work. So we will. And they'll do a nice job up there. That crew up there, I have a lot of confidence in. They do a nice job with kids. They do.
Yeah, and I would say from everything that you've shown us this year, you guys, you get it done. So appreciate that.
I was just curious, since we're talking about MCAS. Did we get anything back from that thing that the school committee sent them? I'm just wondering if they replied or if they ignored it, and when this was announced that MCAS is happening.
It was almost about the same time that we sent that off was when we got the latest update about the high school and all that, and the elementary kids could take it remotely. It was frustrating for us because to find out that the kids could take it remotely after we started this initiative to recollect all these Chromebooks that we've lent out so we can have them in school so the kids can take the MCAS in school. And it's just tough this year. It's going to be tough. So we'll figure that one out next and we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you.
What are the MCAS dates? I mean, and ballpark is fine. I don't need every grade. But
It was supposed to happen in mid-April, which is right around the time that the state said, "Hey, K-8, you got to come back into session." So then they saw how ridiculous that kind of sounded. Come back into school and take the MCAS. While you're adjusting to being back into school and figuring out these new procedures and everything. So they pushed it back for a month. So now it's mid-May is when they can take it. That's also. The high school had their dates already set in stone earlier, so that and then each school has a window. You can, depending on your kids and what's available in your own structure, you schedule it within certain days. So,
okay, great. I can feel your frustration, Bob.
Oh yeah.
Leave it there.
We'll get through this. It's just, I'm with you guys. Of all the years, are you kidding me? And they're already telling us, as sort of like inside traders and all this information, don't worry, this year probably is not going to be used for anything. It'll be next year. We'll start a new baseline and all this insider trader info. And you're like, then why are we doing this? Like, come on. Like, it's just, yep.
Yeah.
Well, in a perfect world, won't it be a way to show that there could be shorter tests going forward? Hey, what if everybody knocks it out of the park? I know. Yeah.
Yep.
At least if we're going to do it, I hope there's some good data, but I don't see how you can, lean into the non-normal and see if we can get anything out of it. But I don't see how. There haven't been too much on straying from normal. That's the paragon of all things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Anything else on MCAS high school?
So many things, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, exactly. Anything we feel like saying in public about? All right, so budget update. Grant.
Yeah, I just wanted to update you on that. 617,702 was the total for that. It's in 3 large buckets, and this is what I had to put in as part of writing it. So it's supporting teaching and learning, and that's a variety of different things. It's supporting improvement of indoor air quality, and it's also supporting instructional technology. The new grant is the COVID Prevention State Grant. That's $245,950. That's in 3 different areas. It's in PPS, personal protective equipment. It's PPE. I'm sorry. It's in. Thank you, Mike. It's in desks that we just bought for the high school. And it's also supporting $100,000 of that is going to people that we need to make the buildings work. The principals cannot have their almost 3/4 of their day be lunch duty. They have to be able to come out and deal with discipline and those types of things, take a breather, deal with teachers, do observations. So it's bringing people in as lunch monitors and also in the high school for bathroom monitors. So there's $100,000 that we're using to pay for those unforeseen expenses.
Just want to jump in on that, Bob. That grant there, that has a June 30 ending date.
Yep.
And unlike some of these other grants, which extend into 22 or thereafter, so we'll be making adjustments between now and the end of the fiscal year, and some of those adjustments will probably help us with next year a little bit as well.
Dan, did you want to talk about the regionalization application, the efficiency in regionalization?
Absolutely. So I gave you a link there to the state website, and this comes back to the discussion that we had earlier when we were talking about the capital. This is a competitive grant that we did submit. And Adam, if I may, can I just broadcast for 30 seconds? Although I just got some looks here, like, you're kidding me. You're going to put it up there on the screen? Uh-oh, and Krista took out her phone. I tell you what, I'm going to pass on that suggestion.
I'll give you like 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Within 30 seconds. Or
sure thing. Let me drive the boat here real quick.
Sure.
Let me
All right.
Can you see it okay?
Yep.
All right. So I submitted this grant last week to DOR, Department of Revenue, and the award was up to $200,000. I'm going to jump right down into the premise of my application, and we are proposing to be working with the Collins Center for Public Management at UMass, and they would do a study that would involve the district as well as the towns on facilities management. And this comes back to what we were talking about earlier, because I think that, if we are successful in receipt of this grant, again, this is a competitive grant. There are communities across the Commonwealth who are applying for these dollars. But B, if we are successful, they'll be writing a report that was part of my application that will speak to some of the cost savings that can be realized in some of the collaboration that could potentially exist between the district and the towns. And here again, this was part of my narrative that I'm just putting up here on the screen. Some of the benefits that could result from this work here. Scrolling further down. This is the budget that I submitted. Again, we would, as part of the budget, we would pay them approximately $45,000 and change. I built in $500 travel within district, and then on the salary side, again, there are a couple of numbers here. Number one is we would look to have a liaison between the district and the towns. Secondly, the admin, that would be me. So I would reduce the amount in the general fund and pick that up through the grant. And then there's a a fringe line associated with this as well. So I don't know if you can see it there, but again, as I said, the budget for this is approximately 93,455, and we're excited about the possibility of receiving this grant. Again, we're going up against communities across the Commonwealth, but I think that this will certainly, if we are successful, would certainly help drive the mission, if you will, of the capital program that we discussed earlier tonight. So fingers crossed, toes crossed, eyes crossed that we're successful with this application.
Have you discussed it with any of the towns yet?
Actually, I
didn't mean to ask the bad question, but
well, no, I've exceeded my time. That was I can't believe she actually clocked me. I can't see it.
307. That's pretty good, actually.
That was actually, you got to give me credit. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. We've actually, I've been in contact with the Collins Center, and they have done some work with PACS in the past. You know, if we are successful, I'd like to partner with the Collins Center's support with the town of Holden down the road. I think they have the bigger piece of the pie here in terms of district. And I'm not looking to sidetrack the other buildings. We can certainly bring them all into the mix as well. And that is something that would be a byproduct of the analysis that the Collins Center would do next year. So that would get us into FY23. How am I doing, Krista?
That was extra. You got that for free.
What a sport.
That one was my fault. So
Thank you.
all right, good.
That sounds great. It seems like our district could really use the benefit of more grants. I know that that's can be a lot to add in to an already stretched thin admin, but the this did, you took it down, but I think I saw that this would include having like a grant manager within the project.
Yes. Yep.
And
Yep.
so that's great. I mean, because a good grant will include that in the mix and pay for itself. So, I mean, the phrase, you can't get blood from a stone. So looking for these other ways to bring in better cost savings, better collaboration, that sounds great.
So that's what this project will result in. And you know what? I'll send you all tomorrow a copy of the application that I submitted to DOI last week. I don't have a date as to when they would make a decision, but I would think it'd be fairly soon because in my application that you'll see, there's a schedule of deliverables in working with the Collins Center, and it starts, at least the way I wrote it, it starts July 1. So, here we are, the middle of April. It's kind of, time is slipping away.
So by August 1st, you should know. Yep.
All right. Any other questions or? Fingers crossed. Do I sleep at ECC? Oh, because I'm in the office? Yeah, I actually had,
on a vacation week.
Yeah. Don't tell anyone, I got a little cot over there. You laugh.
It's the same working from home. You just go like upstairs, downstairs. You go over in the corner, take a nap.
Yeah.
Up in the morning, ready to go.
Yeah. So my lips are sealed, Mike, in terms of your question.
All right. So we've already covered the long-term capital plan. Is there any new business, which will be a little interesting because we have no more time to address business, but any business we would like the next subcommittee to address?
I had intended to ask this earlier in the meeting, but I didn't find a good spot. The calendar for this year, given the snow day from last week, puts us on June 21st, which is Sterling's election day. So has that been on the radar? Is there, I know I asked it before, thinking, oh, it won't really happen, but what's the plan? Can I ask that now, or should that go for next meeting?
Good, go for it. You can ask it.
Yeah, I'm not following what you want to ask, Linda. So be a little more specific.
So students will be in for their last day of school on June 21st, correct?
Mhm.
Instead of June 18th.
Mhm.
And the Sterling building, Houghton, is used for the town election on June 21st. And given the COVID restrictions of parents can't come into the building, only students come in, there's the locked entrance, there'll be students in the building, and an election going on during COVID. So is there a plan to handle that, that group of events?
I can't speak for the town of Holden, but if we have to have
Sterling.
last day of school, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that is our last day of school. It's a half day of school, but it has to count as the 180th. So we have to be in session for a certain amount of time. That's a fact. So it could be that we have to work with the town of Sterling to figure out like how we might be able to do a workaround. Is it the senior center now needs to take people for a certain amount of time, and then we can open up the school once everybody's out, you know, that type of thing. There'll be buses in and out. There'll be kids coming off. There's the parent pickup line. It's pretty crazy there right now. So we'll have to work with the town of Sterling on that.
So then it hasn't been broached with the Board of Selectmen yet at Sterling or town administrator?
It hasn't been in Dan's world or my world. We'll say that tonight. So we can certainly get an answer, but it will be going through Daryl to get that answer.
Okay.
Yeah, just to jump on that, definitely bring it up with Daryl and see if there's anything that can be done, because it's going to be painful for everybody involved.
Yep.
It's a sensitive topic in a regular year, never mind last day of school and COVID and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Any other new business? All right. Next meeting? Don't plan on scheduling one before May 10th. So please don't make me. Yeah. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I think people are afraid to say
Yeah,
goodbye.
Right? Like, I mean,
I-
I've had a good time, people, but I do want to go to bed, or at least go. Do
No, you
my-
don't. You're just gonna go watch TV. That's what we all
No,
do.
my work or
So if I could just ask a question, I know, Adam, you're leaving, Krista, Mike, and Linda, are you all moving on too? From
My term continues until next May. So I'll be around.
And Mike, you're new, right? I mean, obviously, so you've got some time, right?
The people of Rutland will decide on May 10th.
Yep.
Okay, all
okay,
right,
yeah, because you were appointed.
Pointed. Yeah.
Right.
So he's running. Yeah.
all right.
Good.
I'm here for the
Krista?
next 2 years if I can handle it.
You can do it, Krista.
I don't know.
All right. Well, this is the end of the public meeting. There's a motion to adjourn. Mike, go ahead.
He made the
Yes.
motion.
I made the motion. Didn't get a second.
And Krista
Oh
seconded
no,
it.
Krista seconded.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Krista,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
everyone.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
We've all seen how this meeting runs, and